Here, but what you'll pass by on this first area is where we do a lot of the diagnostics. So bioenergetic testing, full body thermographies, heart rate variabilities, biological impedance analysis. You'll see it's a tiny room you can get a ton of information for. So that's normally when a patient comes in, they bring their blood work, whatever, all their medical papers in, but they usually stop there, so that's called our in-house testing. We don't do a ton of out testing like stool samples and all that stuff, but I really gather a lot of information because we do point testing, again, pre and post stress testing. So we really want to train and see where lymphatic systems are, nervous systems are at, and then when we get into like central nervous systems, it gets to be a bigger deal. So if you poke your head into this first room, you'll see some of this other equipment, and it's stacked on stacked. But if you ever want to come by and just do free assessments, talk to her.
We have this room.
No right way to do this outside.
And then everybody watching, and then we have this room. So we can see.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to go through, and we have this room.
Is that the end of the train? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
On this side, maybe Lisa can poke her hand out.
The first room.
There you go. That's where we do something called brain frequency. There's only 3 of those systems in North America. So what it is a unique form of transmagnetic stimulation. So when we have people with Alzheimer's, dementia, or athletes with concussions, we do a whole bunch of neurofeedback, but when there's not enough like power in the central nervous system, we have to put it back in there. So we do unique EEG scanning in there, but the most important thing, and again for addictions, it's there's a clinic that uses it just for addictions, but it's one of our favorite things for concussions and dementia because it's hard to put power back into a central nervous system. I don't think supplements do it. I've tried to do this for a long period of time. I have another company called CerebroFit that uses infrared helmets and audio-visual entrainment, so we get great results for elderly people that way, but it still doesn't do what that transmagnetic stimulation can do. On this side, the first room, we do something called resonant breath work. So you've all heard of breath work, but you're born with a certain resonant breath rate, which again, I found fascinating. You have to have all this expensive equipment to find that, but at birth, where you had baroreceptors in your heart rate and respiratory rate all lined up, there's something called your own unique resonant breath rate. And it never changes throughout your life. So in order to find that, you have to do, it's about a half-an-hour test. And when we find that number, which is a certain number, like, and it goes in decimals, and we do a whole bunch of, like I said, autonomic nervous system testing to find it. But then there's little apps now on your phone that you just pace your breath. So then, because I always laugh when people are like, I'm doing my breath work, and I'm like, your HRV sticks like garbage. So let's go ahead and learn what we're doing. Just like a trainer showing you how to lift weights. Like sometimes it's good to go and work out, but sometimes it's good to know what movement you're supposed to be doing. So again, all of our stuff ends up being tech-based so that we can get faster results because people have no patience anymore. So we get that done. In this next room, you'll see cold plunge and sauna therapies. So we like to do a bunch of contrast therapies for people that are in sympathetic overdrive. So if you ever want to jump in that cold plunge, you can do that. Where is she?
So this room's the massage room, and it's where we have our LymphStar machine. So it's a lymphatic enhancement technology that uses a low-level static energy field, and it pulls the water with that electrostatic. So it attracts the water, so I use the tubes that it produces into to bring the water towards the heart. So I just glide that along the skin, and then it also has a component that uses multi-chromatic light. So it uses red and blue, really bright light, and some near-infrared light to detoxify and drain fluid. And then we do our therapeutic massage. So a lot of times with these patients, we'll do a 50-minute LymphStar treatment alongside a 50-minute therapeutic massage and utilize some of those modalities like craniosacral, visceral, neural manipulation, myofascial release. We can even do deep tissue sports injury massage. So just anything the patient needs that day. So yeah, that's that.
Okay, under the next station.
right?
I don't know what the last person is. Oh, yeah, you can go in there if you want to. I think that's it. Here's the hyperbaric and hypobaric suites and red light therapy. So again, we see, I'm a doctor for the Suns, the Cardinals, and then we see a bunch of hockey guys, Coyotes, because I'm Canadian. So when they do therapies and surgeries, everybody wants them back on. Hyperbaric is, again, one of the best ways that we get them back. Again, for Alzheimer's and dementia, I really like central nervous system stuff because it's hard. So you need to have like great tools to get those people back to where they want to be, and it's highly rewarding, by the way. So we have red light therapy, hyperbaric, 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 and then those CFAC machines are, if you can imagine, this is going under the ocean, that goes to altitude. So usually endurance, like combat fighters like that, like UFC guys like it, boxers like it, because you don't have to do any work and you're still doing aerobic training. So a lot of it is like, how do we cheat but not use performance enhancement, which is bad, but performance enhancing technologies is good. And then agents like that. So that's the language we try to put out there, but performance enhancing anything seems to be bad. But all this tech, like, it gets lost on just doing it on athletes because it's really, really great for normal people, which athletes are, by the way. Like, if it works on normal people, it works on old normal people, it works on young normal people, and it works on rich, spoiled people getting paid millions of dollars. So then it all works, but it's all like very innovative, and treatment after treatment, like, you get to see wonderful results. So now we'll go into this, now we'll go this way, because we'll go look at our detox suite. So each one of these things, what I'm trying to do now at the clinic is put it into basically like a farmer's market. We have businesses in the business, so when people come here, which is why I was talking about this general public thing, because they're always like, how do I just come in and not see you? I'm like, I don't want to see you either. You can just come in and like do some therapies, which are really good, because therapists like want to send their people here, and like I am non-combative. I don't want to collect your patients. I have lots of them all over the place, but like, I want you guys to be able to send your people here and get the therapies, right? And that's always like, I want to send my people to you, and I don't need a 50-page report either. Like, I don't want it. Like, you're the expert in what you do, please do it. I'm not going to say, please don't do that, because you know this better than I do. Like, if I knew how to do it, I wouldn't send them to you. So you'll see this clinic is based off like little pods. So this is our oxygen pod. I'm going to show you our detox pod. Then we have a bunch of IVs and nutrition pods. Then we have an altitude training pod. Then we have a PEV pod. So it's oxygen, electrons, photons. That's good for all biology, and then you get to make a lot of better things. So then we add in exosomes and stem cells and EBO2 and V cells, and we put them all together, and then, like I said, people live to be 150 years old or whatever they want to do, right? So developing.
So we have colonic.
Oh, you're developing it? Okay.
Well, it's going to be done in a month.
Okay.
That's close enough.
And we're close, and I can see the end. And
Like your hour, because I don't hear when I see his patients kind of thing, so just
good enough?
Three more.
All right. This will be the detox suite. It's called Foxy Detox, because again, usually detoxification is weird or dirty, so we want to make it a little bit more fun. And again, it's largely tech-based. So I helped develop this pressotherapy machine in here, and there's a gal out of New Zealand who's a PT who's a super nice gal. And you should look up Flow Presso, because it really is and try it today or whenever you want to try it. But they usually go from lymphatics, and then we do carbonic acid ozone saunas, pocket saunas, then they finish in that colonic. So the good thing is, again, after we look at thermographies or whatever we want to, I like to clean people up before we do or put another bunch of supplements in there, because again, the environment's pretty dirty these days. People are full of stuff, and why add 50 more pills when we can probably take stuff out? Now, when do I know to do that? Because we do the thermographies and stuff, we get to see what we want to do. So then when somebody with chronic disease comes in here, it's not all the same thing, because you have to know like where to start, and the assessments really tell us where to start. So the person's not wasting money, we're not wasting time, and like they fly in here for a week. So we need to get a lot of stuff done in that week, and then we need to send them home to meet people like you that are supposed to take over for me. Because again, doing the manual stuff and keeping the lymphatics moving and keeping diaphragms working and digestive tracts unburdened, like that's the stuff that makes my stuff work well. So you'll see in here, presso, pocket, colonic, take a shower, go back and drink some wine, I guess is the way we're trying to do this. But that's this is all the detox to retox. Reset, no regrets. I think that there's a whole bunch of things they're working on, but that's
I think
great.
that's the foxy part.
I know what the Hawkett ozone sauna is. I know what a colonic is. What is the presso? What does
Presso
it
is
do?
compression therapy. So you know Normatec boots. So the trouble with Normatecs, when we look at like lymphatics, because they drain up here,
Right.
It ultimately, it's a bad design, right? They drain into the collarbones.
Right.
Just gravity made it happen like that. Diaphragms are supposed to pump. Everybody's supposed to be relaxed. Nobody's relaxed.
Right.
So diaphragms don't pump. And
Right.
then lymphatics end up everywhere they're not supposed to be. So pressotherapy, Desiree Despong, who's again a New Zealand physical therapist, wonderful lady, she did a bunch of studies, and she used to be the trainer for the LymphStar machine that you saw in that other building. She did that for many, many years, and then she said, well, you know, I think I can do this better and not have to do this manually, because we all get tired of doing manual stuff. So she designed this called Flow Presso, which has infrared. It has a whole bunch of different compression beats to it. And the key is that everything's going up to the collarbone. So it's very relaxing, puts you in a parasympathetic state, kind of, I'm going to say, loosens up your lymphatic while it presses it. And I do like Norm, because everybody's like, how is that different from Normatex? Miles away from Normatex. But that looks like a fireman's suit, so it's not something you can just take anywhere with you and strap on. So, I mean, it is a therapy, but it's to loosen it up, to get things moving then with the carbonic acid, because carbonic acid saunas, what they do is they open up lymphatics again, so then we're bringing more stuff to the surface, we're ozonating it, and then the oil change has to happen somehow.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
Kiana comes in and we just all laugh when we do some colonic therapies, and then we walk out of here clean as a whistle. But like doing little circuits, again, when you combine 1 and 2 and 3 therapies together, I mean, it's magic. And I'm not saying like, I'm a big proponent for doing anything. Like at least trying something. This is a practice. I practiced medicine on thousands of people. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't good. But now in my 25th year, like, you learn that sometimes it gets boring. So like, you learn what works and you don't try to make it fancy. And we have so many innovative things that come out, but it's always the stuff that like just move big parts of the person, still work the best. So I tried to avoid that colonic thing for a billion years. I had 5 different colonic therapists, and they're all like gypsies. They're like here for a bit and then they're gone for a bit, and so it's like it's a hard thing to do. So we like tech comes in and they make it easier for you to do your work. And when we combine things, like I said, in these circuits, it's just one thing plus one thing plus one thing doesn't equal 3. Like it equaled 10. And then we just keep doing that in these places, and it's a lot more like hands-on stuff now, and a lot less me talking you out of eating gluten, right? Because you don't even want to hear about that anymore.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff that we'll see next in the IV center, you know, is where and again, we've done this for 20 some years, right? So now we've always had ozones, then we have 10-pass ozones, now we have EBO2, which is a super form of ozone and blood filtration, then we do exosomes and umbilical stem cells, and then we take out your own cells called V cells and we activate them overnight, then you come back in and we put them back in, and that's all regenerative medicine. So again, when people come in and there's a certain subset of person that has some chronic disease that we just can't get physiology back to where it might be. So sometimes we have to add in extra cells, and these are young cells that do young things, and I have 49-year-old cells. And I know we've all heard stem cells taking their own. I don't want my own 49-year-old cells, to tell you the truth. I think that's rampant in Scottsdale. I think it's really interesting because we can't do that in Canada. But like umbilical stem cells, and however you feel about those, they're from an umbilical cord. They're not from a little baby. But like putting young things in, and I like plant stem cells too, doing all those younger physiological things for some of us that are my age, a little bit wiser, I like to
Right,
say.
a little more mature.
Timeless, we like to call them. They just make us feel good.
Yeah.
So again, the goal is like feel as good for as long as you can, so you can enjoy as many people as you can, right? That's kind of the goal. So like a lot of the stuff that may seem controversial, like I've been doing it for 10 years, so I just see it work. So if you had a question, you're like, what is this weird stuff? Chances are I've done it, and I'll give you the straight answer on it. Some of it I was like, I had high hopes for it, and we've done it on thousands of people. Like some of it works, some of it doesn't. I have a whole garage full of stuff that doesn't work that you can buy from me if you want to, but I won't even sell it to you. And like I try everything because there's a bunch of cool stuff that comes out, but some of it doesn't work. Or some of it works for a period of time and the world changes. And then some of it doesn't work anymore, right? Sometimes like Wi-Fi comes in and my energetic stuff doesn't work as well as it used to. And that's okay, because I still have it. I have a bunch of energetic machines. I used to have like a Rife machine. I used to have bioresonance. I used to have people lined up out the door to get their desensitization from their cat using biogenic medicine. But now with like Wi-Fi and computers, it just doesn't hold like it used to. So I still do it. Kids, it works well. But adults, we're just so neurologically polluted with information that it's hard to get that information in there. Okay, enough about that. Let's go to like every IV that you ever wanted to do, we've probably done. Some of them are trickier than others. So my nurses are wonderful, my staff is great, and like some of the ones that I like most are probably the ones that are considered more dangerous, like EBO2. So we were doing, does everybody know what that is? Blood filtration and ozone?
Would you say what EBO2 is?
So does everybody know what ozone therapy is? Or know a little bit about that? So
Yes.
ozone therapy used to be one of my favorites, which is just taking blood out, oxygenating it, putting back in. And it's only one pass. You take your blood out, I do it all the time. You put it back in. And then 10 pass ozone is doing that same thing 10 times. And you need special machines to do that. That little green machine in the back there is the one that we use. And then of course that's not enough. So then you have to do something called EBO2, which is oxygenation and blood filtration. So instead of just putting it up and down, because you only have 5 liters of blood, I always forget what that is American, but it's like something like 10 pints. Does that sound close?
Yeah, liters
All right.
to a quart.
There you go.
The
Something
liter
like
goes
that.
to a quart. It's a little bit more, 33 ounces.
But instead of like leaving that in there, what we do is while your blood is being oxygenated and ozonated, we put it through a filter. And so through a dialysis filter, then it'll take out a bunch of inflammatory proteins for autoimmune disease.
Wow.
It's like a game changer. For athletes that have a bunch of lactic acid built up, it's a game changer. Now it's 2 catheters, boom, boom. So it's not for the faint of heart for the practitioner, because again, practitioners are always like, I want to do that. And I'm like, probably you don't, because it's a little trickier than that, but it's not dangerous. But it's highly effective. Just like anything, you just have to know how to drive the Ferrari. And my nurses are way better than me, and they can do all this stuff very easily. And that's probably one of the more innovative. Now, when we take your blood out, we also drive it through something called a hemolumen, which is ultraviolet blood irradiation.
Ooh.
So again, like as I start to couple, and I've done this for not a million years, decade. As we start to expose blood to light, we see that green light will attract more oxygen on a red blood cell. Of course, everybody knows what red light therapy does. But driving it through different things like ultraviolet blood irradiation for people with chronic viral infections or chronic Lyme disease, it doesn't last long. So again, I don't know how to treat anything without the stuff that I have anymore. Because it used to be like so frustrating 20 years ago to like try to treat things like chronic Lyme or chronic Epstein-Barr autoimmune disease. And then when you have a bunch of tools, you just realize like, it's got to take that load off the body, and then there's a lot of good stuff under it. So we do all those big IVs in that room back there. So you'll see that little hemolumen sitting back there. It's sitting on It looks like an old printer or something, I guess, but it's fancier than that. And in here you'll see the 10-pass ozone. We have, microcurrent. A lot of you know what frequency specific microcurrent is. I love that. I love singlet oxygen therapy. There's ones from Germany here. There's ones from Switzerland there. A couple different PEMF units. In this Lumilight therapy, have any of you run into that? Being body workers? That's like, again, softer than I am, but so good. And what it is microcurrent combined with light, combined with pulse frequencies. And you'll see a bunch of these. They come in face pads. The gals out of Colorado, super good people. Very gentle like yourselves. And that therapy, again, for calming down lymphatic systems and calming down central nervous systems while you're doing body work.
Yeah.
Like when I have somebody doing something, I want them doing something else. Like half the time to not pay attention to me, and the other half the time to like get something more out of the treatment. So we usually stack a bunch of stuff. So in each one of these drawers, you'll see 50 other machines that I've bought. And again, some of them work and some of them don't. But you should all learn Lumilights if you do body work, because that's like so good. And it's a treatment in a treatment. And it just looks like this. When it's all tangled up into a bird's nest, this is what it looks like. And I use these on athletes because when they're in their hotel rooms, it's very difficult for them to wind down. So we have green, blue, yellow, and red, of course. And microcurrent, like I said, plus light, plus pulse frequencies.
So these are pads that get put on the
Pads
skin?
that get put on.
And are there specific placements for it?
I mean, we can all say that, right? But there's not that many places. So, I mean, if we put them on here and we do here, like you're going to hit nerve ganglions, you're going to do a bunch of great stuff, right? You got to get close. I used to think you got to be so pinpointed, but you just got to get close now. And then, like, there's a bunch of information that goes through frequencies that you can do it.
And there's special trainings to learn how to use this?
Like, if I learned it, you can do it. Right? My attention span's not great, but there's a great training. And I like to support people that have great technology that do it at like affordable pricing and like try to help people. So this is one of my favorites. And again, they have tons of programs that are organ specific.
Oh,
so like if you could dial through like a little phone, because every organ has its own little phone number, so you can dial through those phone numbers, you can learn that stuff, and some of that was garbage and some of it's really good. But when you're going through like the stack, I used to have to, with microcurrent, go through a whole bunch of different settings and dial up all, and it was exhaustive, but it was highly rewarding. Now with systems like this,
it's automatic?
Semi-automatic.
Okay.
But still pretty good.
Wow.
And it moves the lymph?
Yeah.
Okay.
So good. I can't say that enough. Like there's some little...
Well, it's also going to calm the central nervous system.
Well, half the thing is like,
PEMF in there.
if you're going to do anything, this is my opinion. Like if you're going to treat anybody and you can't get them in a parasympathetic state some of the time,
it's over.
I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
right? Because I can't do
anything.
it. And man, I used to take sledgehammers to people with a bunch of stuff. And it works better if you tenderize the meat first and everybody's like, everybody's okay.
Right.
And so I'll use anything to put them in that state so that we can get tissues, at least information, because this is hard. When this is saying don't move, you can go ahead and try to move that all you want to. And again, you guys have magic hands. You might be able to do it, but I don't think it'll hold. Because as soon as you release them back into the wild, like I get to see them again. Like, and again, I'm a tester. I like to test it to see if anything I did, like, did anything. And so when they go out and they're like, yeah, that something happened here, right? Because I'm doing a treatment on you for half an hour a day, and you've got 23 and a half other hours. And like, if it's holding, it's holding. Like, if my kid's going to school and they're not learning French, something happened, right? Like, you're teaching them French every day, they're not learning a language. That's just it. That doesn't mean it was wrong. It just means somehow it didn't retain. So I'll always use something that innervates a parasympathetic nervous system while I do something else. Like putting $10,000 of stem cells in somebody with autoimmune inflammatory disease, I don't get it. Like, I'll do it to you, but people are like, I'm not taking your money for that. Right? I'm not going to be held responsible for like that crappy result. But again, we do it all the time because that's all you have. When you clean the person up, and then you go ahead and put it, you spend $1,000 clean them up, that $10,000 will go a lot longer. But if you don't like clean up the other stuff, I'm just using exosomes and stem cells to take out inflammation you already produced. Why would you pay me for that? right? Go have some more birthday cake. It's more fun than that. All right, so in this room, 2 different kinds of altitude training. So again, to move lactic acid, athletes and anybody else, oxygen is a big deal, right? We have mitochondria. We're trying to produce ATP. That's, at the end of the day, if we can do that, we can do a lot of things. The trouble is, if lymphatics can't get rid of stuff and we're in anaerobic metabolism or just using lactic acid, which is what everybody does in a sympathetic state, or what chronic disease ends up to be, or cancer, if we want to say that word, then we got to go ahead and pump a bunch of new oxygen in there so that we can make new mitochondria, because we can, and then we can get rid of old stuff out of that lymphatic. So in here you'll see contrast therapy with altitude. Hyperbaric is a wonderful thing because we're just piling oxygen on. But in order to get vessels to move, to open up and close and make that pump, you need to provide oxygen deprivation states. So you'll see here, they get on a bike, they're not pedaling hard, there's a bag of reserve of highly concentrated oxygen, and then another bag of like 13%. And so you'll see pulse oximeters, which some of us know, and some, usually your normal pulse ox is 98. Right? When we go and do this testing, we'll get pulse oxes down to 65. And the person's still going. And they don't even know it is there. But what happens when it goes like that is vessels open up really big because they say, oh my gosh, we're the top of Mount Everest. And then we give concentrated oxygen. And so we get to deliver it everywhere we're not supposed to. This other little unit on this side is just to get rid of old mitochondria.
Really?
That we don't want anymore.
There's something that gets rid of old mitochondria?
Yeah, if you do altitude, if you do contrast therapy and you expose cells to low oxygen states, old mitochondria die. And then it stimulates new mitochondria. Now you can't do it unless you have this stupid little machine, which I hate this company, but at least they make a good technology. But it is like magic, and there's only 2 companies that do it. One's in Europe called Celgym, and they're hard to get, and the other one is this, which I won't even mention their names. I don't hate them that much, but some of this stuff is difficult because they're the only ones to do it, and so you got to sometimes deal with these companies. And then we have the electron suite coming through there, which is Danielle's baby, which again, I've been doing, I gotta sit down, this is hard. I've been doing PEMF therapy and made some PEMF devices before it was really anything. So when I used to go to Europe, there was always a bunch of crazy people that would talk about electrons because it was all physics. And so I was not a physicist, but I thought that was cool. And so they would be doing these things on horses, and I'm like, well, if horses do it, because normally it was all equestrian medicine. And they would say, because people spend money on horses and they don't care about their people, but I mean, horses were something. So after a while, after building some of these machines, you got to see these physicists were doing a bunch of great testing on seeing how skeletal muscle repaired and then seeing how central nervous systems recovered from it. So this was one of the old machines, and it's probably 20 years old, and it looks it. And then when you see Danielle's suite, which is called Jolt, you'll see the new form of PMF. And again, it doesn't matter what form factor it has. If you put light and oxygen and electrons together, like I always say, there's a lot of good things that happen. If you had clinics that just did nothing but that, I could argue, and maybe some body work, but I can make a serious argument that a lot of great things would happen. And then I'll leave it at that. So let's party. No, whatever. Do whatever you want to do. I have some people sitting around that are ready to.
Our boxes are significantly larger. So in this room we run 4 units, and then over off 101 in Shea we run 6 units in a much bigger space. But PMF is really tremendous for bringing the system into a parasympathetic state and calming the nervous system, in addition to healing and really finding those areas that need the repair. So we utilize full body beds. So these beds are completely covered head to toe in Tesla coils. So you're getting full body stimulation throughout the entire system. Every single aspect, every mitochondria in the body is being stimulated. And then we use smaller accessories to focus on certain things. So we do a lot of direct brain stimulation, we do a lot of organ stimulation, and then we get into the aches and pains like the low back, the elbows, the joints, things like that. So we'll use smaller accessories to bring in more energy to those areas. So that's it. Our sessions are about an hour long. So
Wow.
we actually are utilizing the energy generally about 3 changes through that 60 minutes. So we'll always work full body. We work on the root cause of what's going on in the system, and then we'll address different areas with more energy to support the system.
I know what my definition of pulsed electromagnetic field therapy is, but I'd like to hear yours. Could you, because people have asked me, what exactly is pulsed electromagnetic field?
Yes, it's a very hard concept for people to understand. 2 aspects of that. One, I keep it simple and just saying it is a natural frequency that targets inflammation and stimulates repair and actually regenerates tissues, organs, ligaments, tendons. The trick with PMF is it does need to be strong enough to actually penetrate through the body. So, a lot of the smaller mats and things like that, I call them wellness mats. They're good for at home, they're good for continued use, but they're not really therapeutic enough to be healing the tissues or organs that we're looking for. And on the flip side of that, I look at MRIs, which is a magnetic resonance imaging. We have a pulse magnetic field, so it's working along the same concepts of that magnetic resonance, just a much shorter wavelength. So it's therapeutic, it's natural, it's healing. We don't get the negative EMF, but it's very diagnostic, just like that MRI. So if you're laying in your MRI and it's not touching the body, and that magnetic field is actually picking up on those low frequencies, low energies, as Dr. Drobot mentioned, every organ runs on its own frequency and its own system. That's what it's picking up on. Low voltage in your cells, low voltage, low energy in your tissues, not enough oxygenation, not enough circulation in our blood. It's picking up on those areas, just similar to that magnetic field that's looking in the MRI. Same thing. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What
That's
does the
helpful.
patient feel?
So you feel the energy in this mat. Some PMF you don't feel at all. It's very low intensity. You can actually get muscle contraction here as the energy moves through the tissue. It feels like a wonderful massage. It's very targeted, so the areas that need it most will feel differently from the rest of the body. It will really pick up on those specific areas. So it feels like almost like a tapping sensation. And then more stimulation and more energy will be put into the areas that need it. So even if we're using a mat that is this big, if I've got a left shoulder and the area's way down in the lat or the scapula, or it will target that specific area and it will feel a little deeper and a little bit more prominent. But it feels very good. Yeah, it's kind of like a massage for a lot of people.
And when I've had PMF, I've heard like a sound, like a click, 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 and the higher the number, the faster or stronger the percussion.
Yes.
And so, do you want to say anything about like those numbers, like a 6 versus an 8? And
so those are frequencies that you're hearing, and really the pulse per second, how fast that energy is being delivered to the body. There's different types of PMF units. Some are what you would call a spark gap technology, where they come together and they're delivering that pulse that you're hearing. We use a combination of spark gap and solid state systems. So that machine over here is the only solid state system on the market that we can customize our frequencies and our intensities. I don't use any machines in our office that are pre-programmed. So that's why I call it the lab. All of our protocols are totally calculated for they're customized for your body, your session, where your body's at that day, how you did last time. So that pulse is really how many pulses per second you're getting, which in turn is your frequency. So if we have like a 7.8 hertz is kind of our most natural resonance to us in the Earth's field. So it will be a much higher frequency level. You'll hear more pulses, and as you work down, that pulse gets a little bit stronger. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to totally calm the system, if you're trying to bring more energy into the system, do we have an acute issue, a chronic issue? who's the client and how much energy do they need.
Right.
All of those things depend on those frequency choices.
Oh, that's great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
That,
you're
yeah,
welcome.
that answers it.
Good
I
question.
used it when I fractured my bone in 2 places, and so I had I went to the place that had like it looked like a
big
hose.
loop, yes.
And it went all around my shoulder, over the arm area, and it created that field to
Yes.
speed up the healing of the bone, and it
Yes.
did work.
Yes, it's tremendous, and
Mhm.
it does work. If you give it the consistency and the time, it always works. But I do think we have the highest quality machines on the market. All of our team, this is all we do. So we specialize only in PEMF. We also stack, so you can see red light over there. We use the Normatec compression, so we're actually moving the system, getting better circulation. We do inhaled hydrogen at the same time, but everything we do is stacked at the same time. So we're happy to give some demos in here. I know Dr. Drobot's team is ready to show you around out there, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And I know they're happy to set you up on anything, let you try it, and we're happy to do that as well.
Oh, thank
like to
you.
try it.
Yeah.
You're on.
Hello, Alicia Fortune. I'm the Director and Vice President at Cerulean Human Health Performance, where we are honored to really feature hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So I will show you this kind of first for 10 seconds. It's with the hyperbaric oxygen therapy that we can do everything from immunity boosting on more of the preventative functional medicine side, all the way to focusing on an ailment that you might have, whether it's traumatic brain injury in the brain health space, the oncology space, healing, repairing tissue, or even a COVID long haul client. Over here, we have our hypobaric pad that can be utilized as a performance trainer, altitude acclimation, but also for health repair, can even focus on lyme and purging toxins. And then last but not least, we have our infrared, near infrared light bed, but the mechanism of action is activating the mitochondria to heal with healthy light. So here's where you're going to get the benefits complementing the hyperbaric oxygen chambers with reducing inflammation and working everywhere from the dermatologic level all the way tissue, muscle, and as deep as bone. So that's our infrared, near infrared light bed. And then last but not least, the baby but still very powerful as a modality is our cellular DNA repair. And this is where we are simply going to reduce oxidative stress. So really the complement is our trifecta to say we want to open up the cells with the hyperbaric oxygen, reducing inflammation, doing pain relieving, and just healing from the inside out. And just to clarify, the hyperbaric oxygen therapy is really going to kick in your natural regenerative healing process. So that's where no matter what the ailment, you can really focus on that with oxygen. So as you open up those cells, second would be 15 minutes doing the infrared, near infrared light bed. And then we would complement that with our antioxidant therapy, which again is about 20 minutes to just reduce oxidative stress. And all of those 3 modalities together are truly going to just optimize health at the cellular level and heal you from the inside out.